Hello! Welcome to the Study With Me series of Law School Buddy. I have prepared audiobook materials following the syllabus of the Philippine bar exams dedicated to our law school students. I hope that this audiobook can help with your study and review. Let's begin. This episode will cover the Revised Penal Code, Book 1, Chapter 4, Application of Penalties, Section 1. Rules for the application of penalties to the persons criminally liable, and for the graduation of the same. Article 46. Penalty to be imposed upon principals in general. The penalty prescribed by law for the commission of a felony shall be imposed upon the principals in the commission of such felony. Whenever the law prescribes a penalty for a felony in general terms, it shall be understood as applicable to the consummated felony. Article 47. In what cases the death penalty shall not be imposed. The death penalty shall be imposed in all cases in which it must be imposed under existing laws, except in the following cases. 1. When the guilty person be more than 70 years of age. 2. When upon appeal or revision of the case by the Supreme Court, all the members thereof are not unanimous in their voting as to the propriety of the imposition of the death penalty. For the imposition of said penalty, or for the confirmation of a judgment of the inferior court imposing the death sentence, the Supreme Court shall render its decision per curiam, which shall be signed by all justices of said court, unless a member or members thereof shall have been disqualified from taking part in the consideration of the case, in which even the unanimous vote and signature of only the remaining justices shall be required. Article 48. Penalty for complex crimes. When a single act constitutes two or more grave or less grave felonies, or when an offense is a necessary means for committing the other, the penalty for the most serious crime shall be imposed, the same to be applied in its maximum period. Article 49. Penalty to be imposed upon the principals, when the crime committed is different from that intended. In cases in which the felony committed is different from that which the offender intended to commit, the following rules shall be observed. 1. If the penalty prescribed for the felony committed be higher than that corresponding to the offense which the accused intended to commit, the penalty corresponding to the latter shall be imposed in its maximum period. 2. If the penalty prescribed for the felony committed be lower than that corresponding to the one which the accused intended to commit, the penalty for the former shall be imposed in its maximum period. 3. The rule established by the next preceding paragraph shall not be applicable if the acts committed by the guilty person shall also constitute an attempt or frustration of another crime, if the law prescribes a higher penalty for either of the latter offenses, in which case the penalty provided for the attempted or the frustrated crime shall be imposed in its maximum period. Article 50. Penalty to be imposed upon principals of a frustrated crime. The penalty next lower in degree than that prescribed by law for the consummated felony shall be imposed upon the principal in a frustrated felony. Article 51. Penalty to be imposed upon principals of attempted crimes. A penalty lowered by 2 degrees than that prescribed by law for the consummated felony shall be imposed upon the principals in an attempt to commit a felony. Article 52. Penalty to be imposed upon accomplices in consummated crime. The penalty next lower in degree than that prescribed by law for the consummated shall be imposed upon the accomplices in the commission of a consummated felony. Article 53. Penalty to be imposed upon accessories to the commission of a consummated felony. The penalty lowered by 2 degrees than that prescribed by law for the consummated felony shall be imposed upon the accessories to the commission of a consummated felony. Article 54. Penalty to imposed upon accomplices in a frustrated crime. The penalty next lower in degree than prescribed by law for the frustrated felony shall be imposed upon the accomplices in the commission of a frustrated felony. Article 55. Penalty to be imposed upon accessories of a frustrated crime. The penalty lowered by 2 degrees than that prescribed by law for the frustrated felony shall be imposed upon the accessories to the commission of a frustrated felony. Article 56. Penalty to be imposed upon accomplices in an attempted crime. The penalty next lower in degree than that prescribed by law for an attempt to commit a felony shall be imposed upon the accomplices in an attempt to commit the felony. Article 57. Penalty to be imposed upon accessories of an attempted crime. The penalty lowered by 2 degrees than that prescribed by law for the attempted felony shall be imposed upon the accessories to the attempt to commit a felony. Article 58. Additional penalty to be imposed upon certain accessories. Those accessories falling within the terms of paragraphs 3 of Article 19 of this Code who should act with abuse of their public functions shall suffer the additional penalty of absolute perpetual disqualification if the principal offender shall be guilty of a grave felony, and that of absolute temporary disqualification if he shall be guilty of a less grave felony. Article 59. Penalty to be imposed in case of failure to commit the crime, because the means employed or the aim sought are impossible. When the person intending to commit an offense has already performed the acts for the execution of the same, but nevertheless the crime was not produced, by reason of the fact that the act intended was by its nature one of impossible accomplishment, or because the means employed by such person are essentially inadequate to produce the result desired by him, the court, having in mind the social danger and the degree of criminality shown by the offender, shall impose upon him the penalty of arresto mayor, or a fine from 200 to 500 pesos. Article 60. Exception to the rules established in Articles 50 to 57. The provisions contained in Articles 50 to 57, inclusive of this Code, shall not be applicable to cases in which the law expressly prescribes the penalty provided for a frustrated or attempted felony, or to be imposed upon accomplices or accessories. Article 61. Rules for graduating penalties. For the purpose of graduating the penalties, which according to the provisions of Articles 50 to 57, inclusive of this Code, are to be imposed upon persons guilty as principals of any frustrated or attempted felony, or as accomplices or accessories, the following rules shall be observed. 1. When the penalty prescribed for the felony is single and indivisible, the penalty next lower in degrees shall be that immediately following that indivisible penalty, in the respective graduated scale prescribed in Article 71 of this Code. 2. When the penalty prescribed for the crime is composed of 2 indivisible penalties, or of 1 or more divisible penalties, to be imposed to their full extent, the penalty next lower in degree shall be that immediately following the lesser of the penalties prescribed in the respective graduated scale. 3. When the penalty prescribed for the crime is composed of 1 or 2 indivisible penalties, and the maximum period of another divisible penalty, the penalty next lower in degree shall be composed of the medium and minimum periods of the proper divisible penalty, and the maximum periods of the proper divisible penalty, and the maximum period of that immediately following in said respective graduated scale. 4. When the penalty prescribed for the crime is composed of several periods corresponding to different divisible penalties, the penalty next lower in degree shall be composed of the period immediately following the minimum prescribed, and of the 2 next following, which shall be taken from the penalty prescribed, if possible, otherwise from the penalty immediately following in the above-mentioned respective graduated scale. 5. When the law prescribes a penalty for a crime in some manner not especially provided for in the 4 preceding rules, the courts, proceeding by analogy, shall impose corresponding penalties upon those guilty as principals of the frustrated felony, or of attempt to commit the same, and upon accomplices and accessories. And that is the end. If this audiobook has helped you, please comment down below and like and share our video to someone who might need it. Thank you so much for making us your law school buddy.